Hey there, do you dream of escaping into a book? Maybe your escape includes a cozy cabin in the mountains or a magical town along the coast. Either way, you're in the right place. Welcome to Literary Escapes with me, Becky. This year on the podcast, we're exploring the United States. So every week I'm going to bring you a new book set in a different state. So let's see where we're going today. Welcome back to the Literary Escapes podcast. I am your host, Becky, and we are continuing our trek across the United States. And this week, it's week 38 of the year, and we are visiting our, I think, 37th or 38th state this week, and we are visiting Michigan. Our tour guide is Katherine Karrol. Welcome, Katherine.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
I am happy to have you here. I was trying to think before hopping on. I don't think I've ever been to Michigan.
Oh,
which is
you need to come.
Apparently. I was telling you earlier, I'm reading your book right now and I really want to visit there. So, and
come on over. I'll show you. I'll give you the Summit County tour.
So is Summit County a real county? I should probably wait to ask that, but
it is not. It is, but the landscape looks exactly like the county that I now live in.
Awesome. Okay, so tell me about Michigan and what you love about it.
Okay. Well, a lot of times when people think of Michigan, they either think Detroit or they think farms. And we have both.
Okay.
And really, once you get into the northern, kind of the northern half of the lower peninsula, because we've got two peninsulas, got our bonus land and the war with Ohio. Once you get north to that midpoint of the lower peninsula, it's mostly green. There is a lot of farmland throughout the state, but it's very hilly.
Cool.
Depending on where you are.
Sure.
And I grew up in and around Flint, which is just north of Detroit, and then spent close to 20 years living in Metro Detroit. But this area up here that I based books on was always this was always my happy place. This was where we spent summers as kids.
Oh, wow.
This is where we came up, and I came up as much as possible to be up in this area. And it's a totally different thing, you know.
That's so cool.
There are a lot of and there are a lot of resort places. Obviously, a lot of people know of Mackinac Island.
Right.
I've been tempted to write something about Mackinac Island because
I think Tracy Brogan, writes some books set there.
Yes, there are several authors that write there. There are many times that if I see, it's on Mackinac Island, click.
Exactly.
Yes, definitely want to read because it's fun to see the places that are so familiar.
Oh yeah. You know? Oh yeah. That's so fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things that because I live in Florida, and so when I think of a beach, I think of like the ocean.
Yes.
And so when you're in your book, when you mention beach, I have to remember you're not on an ocean. You're on a lake.
I have great news for you. I have super great news for you. Lake Michigan is exactly like being on the ocean.
Really? Tell me.
Because as far as when you're looking out at Lake Michigan, you are on sandy beach, and some of the other lakes around Michigan are more rocky and that, but the Great Lakes, they are huge, so you don't see the other side.
Oh, okay.
So all you see is that same flat horizon. So you get to keep
it's similar. You got the same feel.
Yes.
Wow. And do you have like waves that come in? Probably not big, but
not like the ocean, but they are, especially this is the time of year where we will see a lot more surfing on Lake Michigan because fall brings up I know everyone gets that look on their face. They go, wait,
surfing on a lake, that's insane.
Right. I know she's sarcastic, but is she messing with me right now? But we do. It's a completely different type of surfing because the waves are not anything
Yeah,
like the ocean, but they are big enough that on a longboard people can get out there and
that's
do
so
it. There's a
cool.
lot of yeah, and the town that I live near, the town that Hideaway was based on, is a it is a great spot for surfing and kiteboarding and things like that.
Okay,
Um, so we do get to see a lot of that
that's
stuff
so
around
fun.
here. Yeah, yeah,
And I would imagine that because Lake Michigan is so big that there's a lot of shoreline.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that's really
And
cool.
most of, like I said, some of the other Great Lakes are a little more there's more rocky, or sometimes it's there's the sand and the rocks. We have that on Lake Michigan too, but Lake Michigan for the most of it is very sandy and decent sized shoreline. Not, again, not as big as the ocean shorelines or the, beaches, but they are big enough that we can manage a hefty crowd.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, is it the same lake on both sides of Michigan?
No. Well, they are actually connected up by Mackinac Island.
Okay.
It's the water goes the whole way, but at the Straits of Mackinac, it separates from being Lake Michigan versus Lake Huron.
Okay. I should know that and I don't, but obviously in third grade
You haven't been
geography or
here. You're not
whatever, it's
responsible for, yeah, you don't have to be the geography expert of Michigan. It's okay.
very cool. Okay. And obviously you
Yeah.
all get all four seasons. Um,
Oh, we
Something that
do.
we definitely do not get down here, at least not
Right.
in any
I'm so sorry.
satisfactory way.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Nice.
In fact, we are coming into my favorite. It's because I love fall, and because it's so hilly around here and throughout, obviously when you're down in Metro Detroit, or some of the more developed areas, there just aren't that many trees. But once you get up into the more northern parts of Michigan, it's so awesome to be just driving along and you go over a hill and there's this huge expanse of just color,
Oh, that's so
and
awesome.
it is. I will look for any excuse to take a long drive in the fall because it is
Understandable.
so amazing. Yeah.
A couple years ago, my husband and I spent some time in Nashville, and that was my first time that I can remember really seeing fall colors. I lived in
Yeah.
Colorado for a while, but it was either green or yellow out there. That was it.
Oh,
You
okay.
didn't get
They don't
all
have
of the
that
different
diversity of the
colors.
different trees.
And it was stunning. I'm like, no wonder people love this.
Right. Right. There's
Man.
something very happy about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And just the cool, crisp weather. That's
Yes.
yeah, it's something else we don't get a whole heck of a lot of down
Right.
here. And so
Right.
that also makes
Yeah.
me happy. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And a lot of time it's very, we'll have big winds and we'll have big storms in the fall,
Right.
but we also will have plenty of these bright blue skies. And as someone who doesn't love the super super hot weather, I love having those bright blue skies when
Yeah.
it's 60, 70 degrees, and it's
That's like a
comfortable,
perfect day.
and
Yeah.
it is
That's
it's
awesome.
absolutely perfect.
Reminds me of the line from Miss Congeniality.
April 24th.
Your purple, yeah. Can you tell me
The
about your
perfect date.
perfect date? Yeah. Sorry.
No, no, that's great. I mean, in fact, I think I need to change my answer to that. About October 10th.
There you go. That's
Not too
awesome.
hot, not too cool, pretty leaves.
Exactly. That's so funny.
Yeah.
So I know that you have a day job, and
Yes.
how did you become an author, and how do you balance the two?
Okay, so I kind of love this story. I feel like God snuck writing up on me completely
I
because I
totally get that.
never thought of writing a book. Is that the same thing for you?
Same thing for
Isn't
me.
that
So,
cool?
yep, I love it.
Yeah, all those fun surprises. So I had never given one thought to writing a book. And there was this podcast that I used to listen to tons of podcasts. Usually they were like, sports or murder podcasts. And I stumbled on a podcast that was, um, it's, it was these two women who would read a book that was like a self-help life improvement type book.
Okay.
And for 2 weeks, they had to do exactly what the book said, no matter what it was.
Wow.
And yes, and it was so fun, and it was a fun way to learn about these books because they gave a great summary of
Right.
what the books were about. And the first one they did was that Marie Kondo book about
If
basically
you don't
getting rid
love
of
it,
all your
toss it kind
stuff.
of thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
If it
Yes.
doesn't spark
And so
joy.
exactly. And the poor husbands of these women, like they would have these audio clips on there, and the husbands are going, wait, we really have to get rid of all of our stuff. And so it was just this fun podcast. Well, then they had one, and it was talking about writing a book and getting it published through Kindle, which I had never heard of.
Wow.
And of course the title was something about, as you'll get how crazy and silly this title is, something about, writing an ebook in 7 to 10 days that you'll make money on
Oh
forever.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Because it's just that easy,
Because
right?
it is that easy. Yeah.
It is that easy. And my at the time, my day job, I'm a therapist, and I was not busy enough. I was not making enough money, and every day I was looking for part-time jobs to
Yeah.
supplement my income. And I have some health things that, I've got some adrenal problems that really limit my stamina. And
Okay.
so I'm limited in how much I can manage and do.
Right.
But I was always looking. And as I'm listening to this podcast and they're talking about it, and one of them wrote a fiction book, one of them wrote a nonfiction book, and they published them on Kindle. And as I'm listening, I thought, so maybe I could just try for a week instead of looking for other part-time jobs and stuff. I'll take
That same
20
time.
hours or 25 hours. I will take that time that I would be doing a part-time job if I could find one, and I'll try to write a book. And I'm thinking about it, and I thought, well, fiction would probably be better, but there's no way I could ever write a fiction book. So I'm going to do a nonfiction book. And then I had my plan. I'm going to do a book that's like a self-help type thing, mental health, but funny. So I'll do it like a parody, like how to ruin your life in 5 easy steps. And so I'd be giving people good advice, but doing
Right.
it in
Right.
the flip
Right.
side. So it would be fun and funny, but also
I love
informative. I thought,
that.
I can do this. I can totally do this. Okay, now how do you write a book? And the book that they had read, it talked all about this is how you publish,
But
but
not
I
about the how you
needed
write.
guidance. How do you write?
Yeah.
And of course, there's nothing about how to write a nonfiction book, but there's plenty about how to write a fiction book.
Right.
And so I was looking through the library app, and I found a couple books about writing fiction. And then I found at that time they had some of those great courses available on Hoopla. And so I
Right.
watched one about writing,
Oh, cool.
and yeah, and it was really interesting. And I thought, okay, so I can read this stuff about fiction, but I can apply it to nonfiction because, again, not going to write a fiction book. Well, maybe I'll write one sometime in the future, but not now. That would be way down the road. I'm
Yeah.
going to write
Yeah.
my nonfiction, funny mental health help book.
Right.
And so I was actually up here. I had been, I was living down in Metro Detroit, working down there. I had come up here to, my mom lived here, and she was clearing out a lot of space in her house because she had some people who were going to rent her house. Our
Oh,
cousin and some friends were going to rent
okay.
her house for 2 weeks. And so I came up to get my cat who was here and her cat, get them out, help her clean the stuff up. It took way longer than we intended,
Of course.
and she was going to be staying down the street at this friend's. A friend had this awesome little apartment that's built over her garage,
Oh,
and so
cool.
my mom was going to be staying there. So it was getting too late. I don't like traveling with cats at night on desolate roads.
Yeah.
And so I decided to spend the night. And my mom had plans to go to a concert that night, and so it was just me and the cat. We're trapped in this little bedroom in this awesome little apartment, And I'm just trying to make sure that they're not peeing on anything, so we were
Yeah.
all locked in. And I had no internet access, so I didn't have access to any of the dumb computer games that I would normally entertain
Right.
myself with. And so I thought, oh, well, all right, I'll read that book. I'll start one of these books, and then this will, kind of get me going so I can figure out how to, transfer it and make my nonfiction book. And I'm reading, and it was a fantasy book of all things. It's talking about writing fantasy of all things,
Oh,
which is not, it's just not my, it's not a genre I've ever read. And, but it was really interesting as she was talking about it. And at the end of chapter 1, there were a bunch of sentence prompts. And she said, pick one of these and write for 20 minutes.
okay.
And I thought, sure, I'm game. And so I pulled out my little notepad on my phone and I wrote for 20 minutes. And it was so fun. And the ideas were just coming as
Isn't
I
that
was
crazy?
writing. I know I didn't I was not expecting, not ever having written other than, creative writing projects and, what, elementary, junior high school.
Right.
I didn't have any experience with it. And I thought, oh wow, this is, maybe I will try fiction someday.
Someday, yeah. The infamous someday.
The infamous someday. And then I started thinking, okay, so, I love, like, Denise Hunter or some of these other authors that I really love. A lot of their series are connected because they just live in the same town.
Hmm.
I thought, oh, so if I ever did write
Yeah.
fiction,
Someday off
I
in the
could just,
future.
I've got no more beautiful place to write it about than this area right here. So I don't even have to make up scenery.
There you
This
go.
is great. And then I was thinking about, this apartment was amazing. Floor to ceiling wood. It was built in the 30s. It just, you walk in and you're just surrounded by charm, and just like simplicity. There's no doorknobs. There's just these little latches on the door. It was
Oh, how
so
funny.
cool. Yeah. And I thought, oh, I could write a story about someone who is starting over in life and they're renting this perfect little garage apartment. And I just started writing a story, and it just flowed. I wrote, like, I don't know, I think the first 3 or maybe 4 chapters.
That's awesome.
And I've got her, going into town, meeting the guy. Of course, she's having a bad day, he's having a bad day, so they're both a little rude and they don't like each other. And then they have to be put together. I'm like, this is awesome. And so I didn't say a word to anybody that I was doing this, because I
Yeah.
thought, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm not telling anyone. And because of my day job, I thought, well, I definitely have to do a pen name because I don't want my clients thinking that I'm writing about them, because I would
Right.
never, ever do that. And
Right.
I also don't want them to think I'm writing about me, because I don't want them to, you know, because I also wouldn't
Exactly.
do that. I definitely don't want to be writing about me. And so I thought, okay, I don't even know if I'm going to tell my family. And then it was like, oh, this is on. I'm doing this. I'm going to write a
Challenge
book.
accepted.
Challenge accepted. And the next week was kind of a busy week. And so I didn't have 1 minute to do anything with it. But I was kind of thinking of just like, oh, this is exciting. This is fun. I have this little secret. And so the next weekend, pulled up my computer, I opened it up, and I'm looking at it, and I thought, no, no, I want to start it differently. I want to start it with her driving on these beautiful rolling hills. Sound familiar? And coming into town. And no, I think I want to change this about her situation. And then I think I want to change that. And then I thought, oh my gosh, this is a whole different book. This is a whole different girl. And so that one is what actually became Second Chance in Summit County.
Okay.
And the one that I had initially started became the 5th book in the
Oh,
series,
okay.
Repairing Hearts. And it was really fun to make those 2 girls become really good friends,
Oh, I
because
love
they
that.
kind of started from the same seed.
Yeah, that's so funny. I love it.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And yeah, and it was so, one of the things, because of my adrenal problem, I have to get a ton of rest. And one of the things that I love about reading is that it's so restful. You just go
Hmm.
into someone else's world. I can't read super suspenseful things. It just messes with my body.
Their system, yeah.
And it does. And so I realized as I was writing that writing a book was as relaxing as reading a book,
Nice.
and that it was as fun. And so that book from the time I started and the time I published it was about 3 weeks. So
Wow.
the version that is out now has gone through 2 massive revisions and re-edits.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome. Holy moly.
yeah, yeah. Thankfully, the first version of it didn't get a bunch of nasty comments on the internet about, with people saying, I don't think this person has ever read anything and she probably needs an editor. I mean, punctuation and that stuff was mostly, was good. I had sent it to people. There weren't a bunch of spelling errors. So they gave me a lot of grace for the writing not being as
Right,
good as it
right.
could have been. So
That's so
yeah.
fun. That's a fun story. And so you have like 8 or 9 now in the series, right?
So yes, there are 9 in this series, and then I have 3. I just finished the third in my other series this morning, a few hours ago,
It's a
and
spin-off series,
it,
right?
it it's yes, it's in the same it's all in the same world. There's a lot of crossover characters, which is
Okay.
really fun
Yeah.
to it's a little bit challenging to make it so that um I'm not giving away if somebody
Right.
starts in one series, I don't want to give away anything in the other series. So it's usually the men that are able to show up, that can cross series because they're not changing last names and that
Right,
stuff.
right. Yeah.
So
And they don't
yeah,
say
but it
anything
has
anyway,
been
right? So
right, super easy to be like, oh, they saw Joe Callahan across the
not trying to
room.
bash men.
Yeah, so that's been cool. And there
Fun.
have been a couple of characters that I had planned on be having their own story in the Summit County series. There's one that you will meet at some point in the book that you're currently reading.
Right.
Um, he's a chef. So when people see the chef, you'll know there's a book about him that's in the other
That's
series.
coming. Yeah.
It's
Okay.
coming. So yeah, so there are 9 in the Summit County series. Book 10, I was working on it. I had to set it aside a couple weeks ago, or a couple weeks, a couple years ago, because it sent me into an adrenal crash
Oh,
because I over I tried to overload it and there was just too much stuff and it felt like such deep weeds that I was in that I
yeah.
thought I have to set this aside and go and work on a different thing. And I'll just do that for a week. Best laid plans once again, just like I'll never write fiction.
Exactly.
And and I'll come back to it. Well, now that I've finished the third and the Hearts of Silence series is just going to be a 4-book series.
Okay.
So I'm probably going to do a little bit of stuff on that, but then I will be back to be working on that book 10 of the Summit County series. Because as
Nice.
soon as I put it away within 2 weeks, I knew exactly what I needed to do to fix it.
It's
So
I
that one
love
is done.
that. And it's hard when you're in the middle of something to see.
Yeah,
And a lot of times all it takes is to be, a step or two back from it and you can
yeah,
see what you need to. So that's really cool. I
right,
like how that works.
right. I
Yeah.
think with that one, I needed to know because a lot of times I'll put a book away for a week, sometimes 2 weeks, and then I'll come back fresh eyes. It wasn't really working with this one, partly because I wasn't seeing the problem that I
Okay.
was trying to put too much stuff, and I realized I have future plans for doing some historical books that are going to be
Ooh.
the ancestors of the contemporary
Oh,
characters.
fun. Okay.
Yeah, and I want to do at least one book that's kind of a bridge between the two. That's someone who loves history and is finding out some of the
Oh, that
stuff
would be
about the
fun.
old
Yeah.
days, right?
Yeah.
And I realized when I set that down, I thought, oh, a bunch of this stuff about her that needs to get pulled right out and put into that other series, and that's going to make it
Nice.
much easier to just go back and just write this couple's story. So
Right. Very
yeah,
cool. That'll be a
yeah,
fun one to write, the historical one when you get
I
there.
can't wait.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of
Can't
fun.
wait. Yeah.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
So the book that we're reading in the book club is called Second Chance in Summit County, and it
Hmm.
is the first book in the Summit County series. So why don't you
Yes.
share with us about that one?
So it's I wrote it in 2018 and the like I said, that was kind of the same seed as far as someone coming to this area that was completely new to them and starting over. And there was all this stuff with the Me Too stuff and all of that. And I thought, oh, what a great story for this girl. And so she is in the process of divorcing her husband, who was one of those people in the entertainment industry who
Mhm.
was unfaithful to her, whether the other women wanted to or not. And so he's just a complete awful, evil
Yeah.
creep. And so she just needs to be someplace where, because she also worked in the entertainment industry, they worked on a home improvement type,
Yeah.
kind of an
Work together, live
HGTV type
together,
thing.
all of that. So really
Exactly,
messy,
exactly.
entwined lives.
Very. And because of the coverage and the gossip about what he had done, there were the assumptions about her. She
Right.
must have known. How would she not know? She just let the stuff happen. She didn't say anything, and it wasn't true. And she really kind of wanted to go to some place that was just remote and no internet access and no
Right.
knowledge of him.
Yeah.
And she was from Michigan, from the Metro Detroit area. And she had come to stay with her parents for a few days. And then she just drove and asked God to send her where he wanted her to start over. And so when she got to Hideaway, she
Yeah. I
got
love the
into
name
that
of the
town
town.
and
I think
went,
that's
this
fun.
is it. So, yeah.
Come hide
Yeah,
away
that was
here.
a
Yeah.
right. Well, and in the historical thing, I have a fun story for why it's called Hideaway, because it
Oh,
seems so
fun.
romantic in a contemporary thing, but I think it's going to be a little shady in the historical one,
Awesome.
which will be kind of a fun twist.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay.
Yeah. And then
Nice.
her, I tried to keep it a secret, but every person who writes a review puts both of their names in there because I wanted it to kind of surprise the reader who she ended up with. But I mean, obviously, everyone's going to figure out as soon as a guy is
Yeah.
mentioned who's a
Yeah.
widower.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You
Yeah.
haven't met
So
him for, when you first start reading, you don't meet him
right,
right away, but it's
right.
coming. And
You know it's coming,
yeah.
and there are some little things dropped, a mention of somebody, and most
Yeah.
readers who have read more than one romance book are going to go,
Yep.
I
That's
know
the
what's
guy.
going on. That's going to be the guy. So I don't really have to
Yep.
keep it hidden. So he is a widower. He's got this little 2.5-year-old daughter, and she's his world. And he, because his wife died in childbirth, this little girl is everything, and he needed to change his career to have flexibility. So
Right.
he flips houses. So common skills, some kind of matchmaking, meddling
hmm
from the lady who owns the bed and breakfast she's staying at, gets them together, whether they want to be or not.
Yes. And they both have their reasons for not wanting to be. So
Yes,
I like that.
yes. Neither has any interest in any of that stuff. So
Again, it's those best laid plans.
that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, I like the way that you weave the story, that their backstories influence them but don't necessarily define them, and
Right.
they're able to grow from it on both
Yeah.
sides. And I think
Yeah.
that's when you can make your characters better because of what they've gone through. I think that as a reader,
Right.
it's very satisfying.
Yeah, and that's what I've always loved as a
Yeah.
reader. I want to know what else is going on in
hmm
someone's life. I don't want it to just be, oh, these people met and they're cardboard cutouts and
Yeah.
they're
And
together. You go, huh?
it's also, I don't know, kind of annoying when characters are perfect, you know,
Ugh, yes.
because I mean, I can relate to that, but I mean, how many people
Right.
can? No,
Not
I'm
many.
kidding,
Not
obviously.
many.
But it's nice that there's people who make bad choices and still
Yeah.
get to have their happily
Yeah.
ever after.
Right.
Excuse me. Or they have bad things happen in life
Mm-hmm.
and they still get another opportunity at being
Right.
happy. And I like that. So, and I
Yeah.
love,
And that it's not like this all of a sudden magical, they changed.
no, no.
You know, the books where one or the other or both are just rude and kind of mean,
Hmm.
and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
this chapter, oh, all of a sudden they're not like that anymore, and they're super nice and super sweet, and you go, that's not realistic.
Yeah.
So all of the things that have annoyed me in other books, I have tried really hard to have none of that in
Yep.
mind. I
Yep.
want their decisions and their actions, and even their personalities and the way they interact with people. I want those things to make sense, and I
Hmm.
want them to feel real.
Yeah. And I love the extended family, whether blood
Yeah.
or otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
that is brought in, especially knowing it's a series and it's about
Right.
this community. It's like, ooh,
Yeah.
I can't wait to see whose story's next. That whole
Right.
vibe.
Yes.
So that's fun. So
Yeah.
well done.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I
Yeah,
tried to do
it's
the stuff that I love as a reader, you
exactly,
know? Yeah.
exactly. And it's, obviously, according to that book, it only takes what, 3 to 7 days. So
Right. No problem. You just churn them out and they're going to be
love
great.
that.
I've
Oh,
read
if
some books that
only.
I have thought maybe they were written in that time, and then someone just published without
Right?
doing even a quick grammar check. But yes, that it does take it does take a little longer than that.
That's my editor gets her money's. I get my money's
That's
worth
right.
out of my editor because I
Exactly.
thought I was really
Exactly.
good at grammar and whatnot, but apparently I'm
And then you
very
find
comma
out.
happy. So
Well, the other thing is that a lot of the grammar rules have changed
they
since we were in
have.
school. And so and there will be times that I'll have beta readers, and they'll go and they want to change all my commas. And I sometimes I feel like I need to put a little disclaimer. Okay, here's the current rule.
Right, right.
The Chicago Manual of Style wants commas this way, and this is what fiction
This
follows.
is what we're
So
gonna do.
if you see
Yeah.
some that are the opposite, I promise you
If
it's
you
not
see
an error.
something,
It's
don't
how it's
say
supposed to
something.
be.
Not on
That's right.
commas.
That's right.
It's all
Save
good.
yourself the time of
Yeah.
marking them, and save me the time of having to look at them and go, nope, I was right. It's okay.
Yep. And that's a whole nother, yeah. Beta
Right.
readers are fun. It's really fun to see what they think of the story before it's
Yes.
finished.
Yes.
And
Yes. And it's great because if there are in my in the questions that I send them, what did you like? What did you dislike? Did you connect with the characters? Where were the
yeah,
holes? It's helpful to, I like making it obvious that I want that kind of, I don't
right.
want someone to go, oh, it's great,
No,
and
that's
have
not
that
helpful
be
at
it.
all. Yeah,
No, it's not helpful. It's wonderful. It feels good, but it doesn't help me make a better book.
exactly.
So I'm very picky with my beta
Yeah.
readers
I have
because I
one
want
who
someone who
goes
just gives
through
thoughtful
and
answers.
like her stream of consciousness as she's
Aren't
reading, she
those the
puts down.
best?
Oh my gosh, I love that. And
Those are so great.
like exactly how they're feeling as they're reading the book,
Yes.
and they're
Yes.
impatient for what's coming next, which is
Right.
always so, it's like, oh good, I got that right.
Yes.
So
Yeah. In my books, there's a lot of snark, and so I love it when I get those, and I have a couple that do that. And when they've got all the laughing emojis,
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
yes, okay. So they
perfect.
got that was a joke. And when they go, oh, and it's awesome to see that things
When they hit
landed
those
the way you
moments,
wanted it to.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's very
Yes.
satisfying as a writer to know that
It
you
is.
hit it right sometimes.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah.
because you don't
Yeah.
always, but with those
Right.
moments that you do, it's like, oh,
Right.
yay.
Because you know what you meant to have happen,
Yeah,
but they're letting you know that the words you put on the page actually achieved that.
exactly.
So it is the best.
It is.
Yeah.
It
So it's going to be
totally
really
is.
fun getting back the ones in this next week or so that I just sent out this morning.
So you just finished up the third one in the new series, is that
Third.
right?
Yes.
And there's one more in
Yes.
that series.
Yep.
Is that what you're going to work on next, or are you going back to the other book?
I'm going to start the one that is the fourth in the Hearts of Summit, enough to kind of get at least a start on it. I'm not a plotter. I don't plan out the whole thing. I just sort of, oh, what's going to happen next? Let's have this happen. you know. So I probably, that's what I will kind of start doing. I already know the main things that I'm super
Yeah.
excited about getting that story. And so I've put a little, put little crumbs in this book
Nice.
about it. And so I probably will, try to go and get a good chunk of that done. And then I will come back, because I like to do more than one book at a time, because you
Wow.
have that time to go and just have your brain in a different way.
Yeah.
And I've been dying to get back to book 10 of the Summit County series, because there's so much about that book that I just love. And it's been 2 years since I have
Wow.
opened it. So I'm going to open it. It's going to be a completely different thing. And I know that all of those things that were really bogging me down
Right.
and felt like roadblocks are going to be, oh, plop this out. Oh, let's
Exactly.
change this.
Have a
I
much
know they're going to be
better,
just these
cleaner
little like
path.
speed
Yeah.
bumps. Yes. It's going to be great.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
when you read, what do you like to read?
Mhm. So, especially in the last few years, where, gosh, the world has been stressful and angry and hard, and especially because as a therapist, I'm walking through people
Yeah.
with that stuff.
You've got to hear a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yes, and so I want light.
Yeah.
I stick with majority Christian and clean romance. Actually, in this last few years, I have read much more historical than contemporary, because it's really not,
Has
there's
nothing to do with
about
right
it that's
now.
connected with right now.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love the simpler times, and
Yeah.
it's just so that's what I read a lot of. Although last year, because it was recommended to me and because I knew who the author behind the pen name was, I read this awesome zombie cowboy historical
Oh my
that was
gosh.
just amazing. It was one of those weird westerns, and it was so great. And so it was,
I
even though
can't
it's
even
not on,
picture that. That sounds
I
amazing.
know, it was it was just awesome. And it was a fun, there's so much humor and stuff in there. And you can tell that there's like, I'm a romance reader and writer, and so I'm like, oh, I see right there that there's this thing going on here. So I could find my romance even in a zombie book.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. That's for Christmas one year. I got from my son Pride, Prejudice, and Sea Monsters, I think it is, something like that. And yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Funny.
No, Sense and Sensibility or Sense and Sea Monster. It was something like that.
Oh,
But this
that's
same
great.
author does the same.
The same kind of thing.
Yeah, he does. I think there's Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies, and then this one with Sense and Sensibilities with sea monsters or something. And
That's great.
it was pretty awesome. Yeah. And I
What's
actually
really
did
awesome
read
are
it
those
and
kind
loved
of
it.
books.
So,
Well, that's exactly, a lot of people will buy those as jokes for somebody,
right.
or buy it for themselves as a joke, but then they'll read it and they'll go, oh, I actually
That
really
was
like this.
actually, yeah.
What else has this person written? I want the rest.
I love those
fun.
little surprises that we get sometimes. So,
Mm-hmm.
so
Absolutely.
Katherine, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been a really fun conversation.
This has been so fun. I'm so thankful to be able to be a part of this. I just thought the idea of, we get to pick these different states and do all this different stuff and have all these people doing it at the same time. I just thought that was such a brilliant idea.
It is
so
so,
fun.
it's been so much fun. And for me, getting to talk to, by the end of the year, 50 different authors,
right,
about the states that they're representing, the books that they write.
Yeah.
That's, I love that. That's definitely one of the fun parts of my job. And
right. Which is good, because it has to have been a ton of work for you.
It's a lot of work. It's I'm not gonna lie. Next year's gonna be a little lighter,
Right.
but it's been a ton of fun. So yeah. So, well, thank you again for being part of the book club and for sharing your talents with us. It has been a pleasure reading your books.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining me today. If you'd like to be part of the Read Across the U.S. Book Club, I'd love to have you join us. There is a link in the show notes, so just head down there and click and we will welcome you in. So see you in the book club, I hope. Have a great day, and we'll see you next week with a new episode.